So to get started, let's hear from you guys. Yesterday I did a lot of talking. I left you with some materials to work on. I know you're all entrepreneurs or interested in entrepreneurism. Let's listen to some of the ideas that you have. Why don't we go around and share the type of enterprise we're thinking about or we've already worked on, any kind of aspects of sustainability you're thinking of building into it now. Well, we'll just do sort of a go around and just listen to your ideas. Nothing, not like a big official pitch, but just a check-in. What are you working on? Who are you? Um, what's coming up? What's interesting?
Anyone would like to share his ideas or her ideas? I know what. Why don't you go?
Okay, sir. I'm originally from Namibia, but I'm studying in Thailand. And the idea that I have is more of a social nonprofit organization.
Mhm.
And it is basically to start mobile English camps in Namibia, as a lot of the percentage of illiterate people within the country, and also a lot of the smaller communities or villages do not have access to quality education bridge for people to succeed, and as well the bridge between them coming area, being able to get a job, being able to get into higher education is why many people don't actually get to those or get to the next chapter in their life, and it's barely because of a language that they cannot speak.
Mm. Oh, I like that. And so, and that's a really great thing. I love that you bring up the idea of nonprofit, right? Because a lot of times when we think entrepreneurism, we're thinking making money, by selling goods or services. But nonprofit brings in a really great opportunity there too, because you can bring in funding from grants and funding from donations and foundations, right? And there's a positive and a negative to that, right? Sometimes the funders will dictate the way you do your work, and you might have to kind of work around what the funders want. But at the same time, it gives you more access to resources and infrastructure to be able to go forward with your project. What I really love is when we're able to make self-generating nonprofit businesses. So for example, nonprofit businesses that also bring in revenue in different ways. And what I'm thinking with your project, as people are learning English, like I know from my work in Latin America, it's really hard to, you can learn the language, but then to retain the language, right? You need to have a place to use it. And I'm wondering if there could be a secondary piece where the people learning English
Yes.
can then become interpreters or social media accessors or influencers within their community using their English maybe in a social media medium, right? So they have other people outside of
I
their
was
community. Yeah.
Yes, I was actually thinking of once these people start learning English, we would partner up with businesses within the community where we would kind of do marketing for them, like
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth marketing. So in this way, people are kind of forced, or they have to practice what they're learning, and they have to go out in the communities and market these businesses or hand out flyers. But then it's not just handing out flyers, it's you have to talk to people about this business or so on.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and that's bringing in key partners. That's using key partners in a very sustainable way. So fantastic. And then you're building experience and confidence in your English language learners and also skills, right? So it's more easy for them to go and find jobs because now they have experience and they're using that language. Excellent. And you can think about also a way for them in the future to be able to give back, right? Maybe once people have gone through your program, they can become mentors to new people coming into the program. And that can almost even be a requirement of it, sort of like Heifer International gives animals to people so that they can, improve their flocks of sheep or have, better protein sources. But in exchange for receiving those animals, they need to breed them and then share the babies within the community. So you'll get a sheep, or two sheep, right? And then you have to share the lambs, the baby sheep, with other people. And that could be something with your program too, where once you get your language training, you then have to give back by becoming a mentor to a new person coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Dr.
love
Tamara.
it. It's fantastic. What's your name again? I'm sorry, I'm taking notes on everybody. What's your name?
Okay, Aina.
Aina from Namibia, who's
I-
studying in Thailand.
Yes.
That's excellent. Thank you, Aina. What's the name of your organization?
I'm still thinking of a name. So once I get a name, I'll share it.
Okay, and if you want to throw it out to the class, we can be thinking of names for you too.
I'm open to anything, so I'll appreciate that.
Okay. All right, so class, that's your challenge. Help Naina come up with a name for her nonprofit that's going to be teaching English to people in Namibia. I love it. Who else has a business idea to share? Thank you, Naima.
Ma'am, I want to share my idea.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, what's your name?
Ma'am, my name is Isha, and I've done my bachelor's in gender studies.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to start my online bakery in which I will sell non-perishable items. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. In which I will sell non-perishable items and low-carb food. Like low-carb food for those who want to eat fast food but they can't because of heavy carbs they carry. So that they can also be able to eat a delicious and fast food but in a healthy way.
Where are you located?
I live in I will start my business online and I live in Karachi.
Okay, so you'll do delivery, so people order food and you deliver it to them?
Yes, of course, through
Okay.
delivery.
Yeah. So how are you gonna build sustainability into this? Where's the sustainability idea?
Like ma'am, nowadays people are very conscious about their diet and crazy about keto dieting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they might like and appreciate my idea, and it will take me to the sustainability.
Okay. And how will you be delivering your food?
I will take my husband's help for this.
Okay. And where will you be getting your ingredients for cooking your food?
Like I can get my ingredients from market.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
So something that might be interesting is to develop, and maybe you already have this, but develop a relationship with a particular person in the market. Maybe somebody who is a producer or who is very close to the producers. So then what you're doing is you're benefiting a community, or you're benefiting a family or a particular person by being a regular buyer of their food. Right? And that way also you get better quality food because they'll start knowing who you are and they'll say, oh, this is Itran and she's coming.
Isha.
What?
Isha.
This is Isha and she's coming to get food for this restaurant, and you'll have a stronger relationship, right? Instead of just going to the market and buying ingredients, having a special person that you buy from, right? Or a family. And maybe already you do that. In the United States, we don't, but in Bolivia, we do. We have our casera. We always buy from the same person.
Okay.
But so that could be an idea. I actually had a student from Pakistan in my class at when I was teaching at Hampshire College, and he created a food delivery service on campus that was very successful. And what he did for sustainability was create a zero carbon. So all of the food that they created, they used solar energy to power their stoves, and they cooked and microwaves. They made very fast foods. They were midnight snacks. So the food was delivered between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was delivered
that's
on,
interesting.
yeah, and they used bicycles. So that way people didn't have to be using cars and burning fossil fuels. So, and he would
That
have
is
different
good.
students would be working to do the delivery. So then he was giving jobs to people who didn't normally have jobs. And then it helped the socialization because the students got to know different people around the area that they wouldn't normally know from their food delivery. Yeah. So very interesting. And it was a very successful business. It was so successful that the school closed it down because they thought that the students were making so much food that it was starting to become a health liability. And they didn't want somebody to get sick if the students made the food wrong. So they said the business was too big and they had to stop. But they did a very good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else want to share a business? And then we'll get started with the lesson today. Don't be shy. We don't.
Ayan,
Yeah,
can you
go
jump
ahead.
in?
Yes, we can't see you,
Ayan?
but we can hear you. Hello, anybody else? One more business idea? Nothing? All right. So what we'll do then is we'll get started with today's lesson. Everybody can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So yesterday we took a look at kind of getting used to this idea of the sustainability lens as we're looking at businesses. Something that also had given you as a homework assignment is this idea of looking at yourself as an entrepreneur. Okay, and then seeing where your strengths and weaknesses are as an entrepreneur, because all of us are good at some things, but not everything, right? And that's going to help us see where we need our partners. Okay, so like our husbands for helping us deliver food, or other organizations to help create places for our newly trained language people to be able to be using their language, right? So we want to be looking at what can we do, where can we be looking for additional help, who can be supporting us, right? So working on that business model canvas. Yesterday I had a friend come over and he wants to start an artist cooperative. He has a very large house and some art studio space, but it needs a lot of renovation. So we started going through the business model canvas and just looking at what could this be, right? Just to give him an idea, a future vision of where this project that he's just starting on can end up. And even though his project's not ready, we're looking at, well, where can we start getting started? And using key partners is really good when you're just starting a business. So one of the things that we were looking at, for example, was Airbnb, right? So Airbnb already has the infrastructure of being able to reach out to people who are interested in travel or experiences and connect them. And it's very easy. You don't need a website. You don't need, a very sophisticated marketing plan. And he could just offer experiences on Airbnb. Somebody can come to his studio and make some pottery, or make a welding project or a metal project. And then that'll help him practice his business idea and see how does his facilities work with other people. So, and for example, when I started my new company, Perfect Seed, which is the quinoa company, we started that with Kickstarter. Okay, so Kickstarter is a crowdsourcing program, and same thing, they have all of the infrastructure. So they have all the templates to help you set up a story, make a quick video, explain your project, and they have an audience of people who are already there looking for stuff. So it's an easy way to kind of test an idea, see if something's going to work. So using the infrastructure of other organizations, right? Having those be key partners as your beta testing, kind of is what we're talking about, your idea. One of the books that I really love to use, and when we're talking about businesses, right? A lot of times people think businesses cost a lot of money. And I'm just looking on my bookshelf, but I think I have it in my other office. But it's called Lean Startup. And what I'll do is I'll put in our Google folder a list of different books for you guys to reference if you want to. But if you've heard of Lean Startup, it works as a pyramid. And the bottom of the pyramid is your core idea. Okay, so for example, I'm going to teach English to people in my country, right? The second layer of the pyramid is how you're going to do it. Well, I'll have it in workshops and people are going to come and they're going to learn this particular language. And then the very top of the pyramid, there's 3 layers, is how you're going to get that out there. So maybe people are going to come and pay money and it's a 6-week class and they can take it online. So, and the thing with the Lean Startup, the top of that pyramid can always change, right? The base always stays solid. And I had this in our workbook. Let me see what page it's in. Because we're not going to have time to go through the whole entire workbook because I use this in my class for an entire semester. But let me see what page we have our Lean Startup. Here it is. So it's on page 33, okay, in our workbook. And yeah, okay. So, and when we're looking at how we start our business, right? So you have your vision, you have your strategy, and you have your product, okay? And this is what can always change. Your vision's always going to stay the same, right? Whether you want to empower people, feed people, improve health, right? That vision is solid. And then how you're going to get that vision done, that stays pretty stable too. It doesn't change that much, but the top is where things can change a lot. So doing things like an Airbnb experience or a Kickstarter fundraiser, helps you do a proof of concept, helps you check out what is that final product going to be. And it gives you the chance to kind of switch it around. You can try out one thing, see how this works, try out a particular recipe, a particular way of delivery, okay, a particular market, and then you keep going. And how do you get money for your business? I'm always into micro development. So the idea of being able to self-fund a business or have the business fund itself. So my first business that I had was an advertising agency, and I started that business by just doing advertising work for other people. And then as I got more and more people that I was working for as a freelancer while I had a full-time job, I then had enough freelance work that I was able to start opening up my own business and basically just designed and paid for my own business card. And that was my business. And then I rented out shared office space in a city so it looked more professional. And that was my business. When I had my newspaper, I started with a grant. So I had a $500 grant so I could make my first edition of the newspaper. And then we funded it by selling advertising space in the newspaper for 4 years. And my clothing company, I sold my car. So I sold my car for $1,200 and spent that money to buy my first order of sweaters with hang tags and a name tag. So everything was branded. And then I could sell those sweaters and be able to make money to buy more sweaters, right? So very lean startup. I once had a business where I had a $40,000 investor, and that was the business that failed. Because I had so much money, I could do anything I wanted. I wasn't being careful. I was scaling it way too fast. I still have inventory 3 years later that I have not sold. So that I find, sometimes it sounds exciting to have a lot of money to start a business with, but I find the businesses that seem to be more stable are the ones that are started a little more slowly. Okay, because that also gives you a chance to try out that top piece and see, does this work? And then you can switch because you don't have so much invested just in one particular area. I started my quinoa company with investors. So we did that as a cooperative. So every investor, well, every member is membership. So every member would pay $400 as a share. So they have a share in the company, and then they can also take their share out. If they want to leave the company, they get their $400 back. So that one, we sort of collectively all funded the business. We came up with $2,400, which was enough to bring in our first supply of product. And then we did a Kickstarter to pay for the cost of creating the marketing for the product. So different ways to kind of get started. What we're going to be doing today is I'm looking at our syllabus, okay? So today we're going to be working on workbook pages 11 to 14. And we're also going to be looking at some of the different parts of the sustainability lens. So page 11 is looking at the indigenous knowledge, right? So where did this lens come from? So this lens originated from Sumak Kamana. So Sumak Kamana is an indigenous model. It means living well. And it was developed in the pre-Inca times. And what happened was in the colonial era in Bolivia, as in many countries, right? There was a European mindset that came and took over the indigenous ways of doing things, which were a lot more balanced with nature and the community and the planet. And those ways got pushed aside. But in Bolivia and in many of the Andean regions, people were very remote and in the mountains. And even though the main way of thinking was very Western, there still existed an indigenous belief system. And fortunately, that was able to be preserved and then brought into today's modern world. So in 2009, there was actually a rewriting of the Bolivian Constitution where they created a way to bring this indigenous knowledge right into their legal system, okay, into their country's constitution. And Peru did that, Colombia did that, and so did Ecuador. So the way this works is it works on the Andean cross. And what we can do is look at how can we take these ancient ways of knowing and bring them into our modern world and be able to benefit from them. So the Andean cross is actually a constellation in the sky, okay? And you can see it in the southern hemisphere. It looks like a triangle. And the way the Andean cosmovision works is in the Western model, we're very linear, right? You have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then it's over. And in the Andean cosmovision, it's a spiral, right? Everything is continuing. So as I'm talking to you right now, you're hearing my message, it's in the present. But once you've heard it, now it's going into the past. And my new ideas that are coming forward that I'm about to tell you are coming from the future. So we have this line of the future that comes into the present and then becomes the past. And we're sort of in a spiral following this line forever. So in that way, we're constantly connected to the future generations who are going to come down eventually and be spoken and recognized and heard, and then pass on into the past, right? And become our ancestors. And so we're on this spiral that's connected with the future and connected with the past. And we're all a part of it together. It's all that one spiral. And it's not just me and my ancestors, it's us as humanity and our ancestors. Because as I'm speaking to you and sharing my words to you, you're hearing them in your line, right? And you're entering your present, future, and your past, future, no, your future, past, present, and past, right? As I'm talking to you, right? You're hearing this message and then you've heard it. So now it's become part of your past. So we all have this collective spiral that we're all a part of. So when we're thinking of that, when we're making actions and we're making decisions, suddenly it's not all about us, right? It's not all about us as a person, it's about us collectively. And in the Quechua language, we actually have a different way of speaking about us as in me and you right here, and us as in us collectively. It's that important that we have that distinction. So in that mindset of everything that we do is related and interacts and is a part of and connected to each other, we have these 4 ways of thinking. Okay, so the first one is munai. So munai is a Quechua word for loving. And what that means is, and it's also related to water. Okay, so munai is loving and water. And what that means is it's about loving your community, the people who are around you, but also what you do. How do you bring passion to your work? How do you bring just subtle, nice things to people to make someone feel good? You know, remembering the name of someone's child and asking, how are they doing? Or thinking about someone that might not be feeling too good that day and stopping by and saying hello, even if you just wave from a window with a mask on, right? So the moon eye is the loving. So looking at ways that you can bring love into your organization. Ushai is reflection, and that's really interesting because actually, I'm not going to do Ushai. I'm going to do Munai, then I'm going to do Rurai. Rurai is over here. Rurai is doing. In the United States, we are excellent at Rurai. All we do is do, 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 do. We are terrible at Munai. We have very little love. If you look at the United States, we have very high divorce rates, very high suicide rates. We are a very disconnected, very individualistic society, and people suffer from that. The Munai is very, very difficult to have in the United States. And people will leave organizations because they don't feel like they're a part of it. They get bored, they're not interested. And that's all an indication of a lack of munai. There's a lack of balance. The Rurai is doing, we're excellent at that. We do everything, you know, we never stop. But that's important, especially as entrepreneurs, because a lot of times, like when I was speaking with my friend yesterday, you know, he was saying, well, you know, we're always talking about this great business I could have. And he just left it at that, because he doesn't do it, right? He talks about it, but he's very slow in actually doing it. So in his balance, he had a lot of love. He loves what he's doing, but he's very slow, which is okay, but you have to keep it in balance, right? So he was lacking on the Rurai. He needed a little more push to keep his self in balance. The other one that we have here is Ushai. Ushai is really interesting. That's power. And how do I interpret it here? Ushai, I say, is reflection. And what that is the wisdom of the ancestors. Here in the United States, we take our ancestors and we put them in nursing homes and we pay other people to take care of them. And it's the worst thing you could ever do, because the ancestors, the living ancestors, our elders, okay, our elders are the people where all the wisdom exists. They're the ones that have already experienced this life and have seen so many things and have learned so much wisdom. And we cannot forget that. The knowledge of our elders is so key and so important in our business. And a lot of times we forget about them because, oh, they're old, they're not really thinking about things the way we do. They don't know how to use social media, you know, whatever. But valuing and including the elders, you can learn so much from that, especially in the area of sustainability. Something as simple as, how do I fix a pair of socks that now have a hole in it, right? We have such a throwaway society. We throw away everything. If we could repair things, we would save so much money. We would help reduce the amount of waste on the planet. We would help extend the use of our resources. And a lot of these skills are skills of our elders that we forget in our fast, busy lives. So that's where that comes in, is the Ushai. And then the Yachai is what we're doing right now. Yachai is knowledge, that's wisdom, that's learning. So when you're working in the area of Sumat Kamana, you want to make sure that you have this balance of wisdom and love and action and reflection. Okay, how is this going to affect me in the future? What's going to be the long-term impact if I make this particular choice? Okay. One of the choices we had to make was, we're looking at packaging. Do we buy recycled boxes or non-recycled boxes? It was really easy to buy boxes that were not made out of recycled material, but I said, you know, that's part of our core value as an organization, is to regenerate. So yes, it costs a little more money. Yes, it's not so easy to find, but let's go ahead and do this, because it's going to set us in the direction of meeting our ethics and values, even though the consumer will never know the difference, because the recycled box looks the same as the non-recycled box. But for us as an organization, this is going to be a path that we want to continue on. So I made that decision to use the recycled box, all right? The box made out of recycled materials. Okay, and that's kind of working in this mindset, looking at, well, what's the long-term effect? Okay, so you guys get to reflect today on your organization and think about how you're going to bring in this balance, right? How you're going to bring in the loving and the reflection and the doing and the knowing. Okay. The other thing that makes up our sustainability lens, and I just want to do a time check because I have another meeting to go to. What time is it now? Oh, here we got like 1 minute. So the next thing we have is circles of sustainability. And what I'm going to do is I have to put it in your folder. I haven't put it in your folder yet. I'll do that this afternoon. But this is a survey. And what we do is we look at where people are feeling their life is, how people feel their life is in these 4 different areas. And this is very interesting. This was developed over a a 10-year period of time with the United Nations Development Program. So people working in cities started meeting together to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals at different conferences all around the world. This model came out of Australia, Melbourne, Australia. And what happened was, as people were talking about what sustainability meant to them, they started identifying 4 areas. And what's important here is the language, the identification, because by identifying something and saying this is important, we now consider it and look at it, and then we can start acting and working towards it. So we have ecology, culture, economics, and politics. And ecology is all about our natural environment. But what's written here in very small type that you can't really see is that they identified, well, what is ecology in a city environment? So they're looking at materials and energy, water and air, flora and fauna, habitat and food. So when you start looking at what those areas of ecology are, then you can start giving them importance. So this is an economic tool. It's used for economic development, assessment. It's a way to identify how people are doing. Okay, so we can look at how are people feeling in their ecological environment. How do you feel your natural environment is? How do you feel your access to food is? How do you feel your access to clean water is? And then people say on a scale of 1 to 5, I feel it's great, I feel it's terrible. And then the circle is filled in, kind of showing where they are in this. So this is a circle. Not sure where the circle came from, but I'll put a link. I'll give you guys a little page of information today. I'll give you a link for a website that has a lot of information on this. And I'll also give you a survey that you can do yourself to see where is your well-being in this model. But here in this one, the ecology is kind of low. Culture is strong. Oh, this is mine. I think this is mine from Bolivia. I'm pretty sure. No, it's not. Anyway, forget about it. So anyway, in this one, the ecology is low. I'll give you a link to show you ones that I've done in Bolivia. Culture is strong, politics is strong, and economics is strong. So culture, we're looking at how people feel that they're able to express their religious beliefs. How do people feel that they're able to dress in their traditions, wear clothing that expresses themselves the way they want to be? Okay. Politics, we're looking at how can people, how comfortable do people feel talking to each other? How much trust is there amongst neighbors? How much do people believe in the leadership that's around them? And then the economics is what kind of opportunities exist for people? What do you see your future as a producer, as a member of this particular society? So why this is important in the sustainability lens when we're looking at businesses is our businesses in the middle of this entire environment. So understanding what's happening in the place around you helps you to also understand where there are opportunities. For example, in Bolivia, when I did the model, the culture was very robust and the people blessed their quinoa. In the United States, our culture is very deteriorated, right? We don't have a very cohesive culture. There's a lot of non-confidence amongst people. So, but in Bolivia, people bless their quinoa. Okay, that goes back to Munai, the loving. So they bless their quinoa before they plant it. They bless the earth. They bless the mountains and their ancestors. And what we found in market studies was consumers loved the idea of buying a food that was blessed. They said, oh my God, that talks to my heart. That is so beautiful. I want that food. Okay, So by using this model, I was able to take the benefit, right, the strong cultural component of the quinoa, and make that into a marketing point for people in the United States that don't have that strong cultural component. At the same time, right, you'll start seeing pieces of this lens overlap. That talks to the munai in the United States, how we have a very strong lack of munai. So having that heartfelt production of the quinoa was very strong here and helped to balance out people's own sumac kamana models in the United States. Okay? So what we're doing now is we're kind of opening up ourselves to thinking about things in a broader sense. Tomorrow, we're going to look at things a little bit more specific when we get into permaculture and solidarity economy. Good? So right now, we're going to keep our big open mind. I'll send you guys a little attachment that has a survey on it and also has links to the things that we talked about. And then tomorrow, we'll meet up again at 9 o'clock my time, which I guess is 6 or 7 or whatever the regular time is for you guys. Is that
It
good?
would be 6 in Pakistan.
6 in
and
Pakistan.
and 8 in Thailand.
Okay.
So, any
Good.
questions you guys have, or?
I just wanted to mention that I requested for access on the documents
Mm-hmm.
on one of my, I downloaded it and I added it back to my Google Drive, but I can still not edit. So maybe if you could just check your mails, maybe.
Oh, sure. I can
Because I
do that.
did
I'll give
send it.
everybody full edit access. Is that good? Just don't change the documents for everybody in the file, right? But I'll give you full edit access so you can
Thank
download.
you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.